The rain hammered the penthouse windows like fists demanding entry, but it was my father's voice that shattered the glass first. You're throwing it all away for some fairy tale bullshit about changing the world? Gabriel, you're a goddamn Vanderbilt heir. Act like it. I slammed the door on the Upper East Side mansion that night, the echo of his slur chasing me down the marble steps, my heart pounding harder than the storm outside. I didn't look back as the cab sped toward the Holland Tunnel, the skyline blurring into a smear of regret and fire. Antonio's text lit up my phone like a lifeline. Wherever you are, I'm waiting. But don't make me chase you this time. That's when I knew. I'd vanish, not into the ether, but into the grit of the streets, trading silk ties for the raw pulse of leadership that had called me since I first kissed a boy under the bleachers at Andover. By dawn, I'd burned my Amex in a midtown diner, the plastic curling like my old life. No more galas at the Met. No more summers in the Hamptons dodging questions about when you'll settle down with a nice girl. I'd been hiding my truth for years, loving men in stolen glances, burying the ache under layers of privilege. But Antonio, he was the spark that ignited it all. We met 2 years back at a queer youth summit in D.C. Him, the fiery activist from the Bronx with tattoos snaking up his arms like stories of survival. Me, the polished kid from Park Avenue pretending I belonged. His laugh cut through the room like sunlight through fog, and when our hands brushed over a shared flyer for trans rights, I felt seen for the first time. Not as an heir, but as Gabriel. We dove in headfirst after that. Late nights in his cramped walk-up, plotting community centers for at-risk LGBTQ kids, our dreams tangling like our limbs on that sagging futon. He taught me the real America, the one beyond the velvet ropes, where kids like us fought for scraps of dignity in foster systems that chewed them up. Leadership isn't boardrooms, Gabe, he'd say, his dark eyes locking on mine over lukewarm coffee. It's showing up when no one's watching. I believed him. God, I believed him. So when my family ramped up the pressure, arranged brunches with eligible daughters of oil tycoons, veiled threats about cutting off the trust fund, I chose him. I chose us. I walked away. Vanishing wasn't dramatic at first. It was logistical, American as apple pie and bootstraps. I crashed on Antonio's couch for a week, then sublet a shoebox in Bushwick with savings I'd squirreled away. Enrolled in night classes at CUNY for nonprofit management. Volunteered at his org, Rise Up Collective, mentoring queer teens on everything from coming out to crafting resumes that didn't scream damaged goods. The work was my anchor. Organizing panels on intersectional advocacy, marching in pride with signs that read love wins, but justice fights. Antonio and I built it together, our love woven into every grant proposal, every late-night brainstorm. He'd pull me close after a tough day, his breath warm against my neck, whispering, "You're my revolution, mi amor." No fireworks, just quiet fire, the kind that sustains. But privilege doesn't evaporate. It festers. My father started with emails, polite at first, laced with concern. "Son, this phase will pass. Come home for Thanksgiving, we'll talk." Then calls from my sister, Eliza, her voice cracking. "Dad's not the same without you. And Antonio? He's using you, Gabe. Street rat playing house with the golden boy." I laughed it off, but doubt crept in like fog off the East River. Antonio was from nothing. Foster kid turned firebrand, scraping by on gig economy hustles between rallies. Was I his ladder up? Or was I just blind to the climb? The first real crack came in Philly 6 months in. We'd driven down for a leadership summit, pitching our expansion to funders in a hotel ballroom that reeked of old money and desperation. Antonio shone. His pitch on empowering marginalized voices had the room on its feet, his Bronx edge polishing their liberal guilt into checks. I was proud, buzzing as we slipped away to the rooftop bar, city lights sprawling like a promise. That's when my phone buzzed. A photo from an unknown number. Eliza, forward-thinking as ever. It was Antonio, years back, arm in arm with a silver-haired donor at some gala. Captioned, "He'll sell you out too, brother." For the cause? Or the cash? My stomach dropped. "What's this?" I shoved the screen at him, voice sharper than I meant. He glanced, face paling under the string lights. "Gabe, that's ancient. Before us." He was an investor, nothing happened. But the seed was planted. Betrayal doesn't need facts. It needs fear. I vanished into the hotel bathroom, splashing water on my face, staring at the man in the mirror. Older, rougher around the edges, but still carrying the weight of a name that opened doors and broke hearts. We drove back in silence. The turnpike a gray ribbon of unspoken accusations. At home, the fights escalated. "You're paranoid because deep down you think you're slumming it," he hurled one night, after I questioned a late meeting with a new board member. "This is who I am, hustling for us, for the kids we promised to save." I fired back. "And I'm what? Your redemption arc? The rich boy who makes you feel legit." The words hung, toxic. He stormed out, slamming the door to our now shared Bushwick flat, and I curled on the bed, the city humming indifferently outside. The climax hit like a freight train in October, rain lashing the city as autumn leaves choked the gutters. Rise Up was on the cusp, a $500,000 grant for a youth center in Bed-Stuy, our baby. Antonio had poured everything into it. Weekends pounding pavement for signatures, nights drafting bylaws till his eyes burned. I led the final pitch in a conference room downtown, suits nodding as I spun our vision, safe spaces where queer Black and Latino kids could lead, not just survive. It landed. Handshakes all around. Champagne popped in the lobby. "To us?" Antonio toasted later, his smile cracking the ice between us. For a moment, I let myself believe. But Eliza's next bomb was a doozy. A dossier, emailed at midnight, courtesy of family PIs. Pages of Antonio's past. Foster records, a juvie stint for vandalism, spray painting a homophobic church, the idiot hero, and worse, encrypted chats with that donor not ancient at all, but from 3 months ago. Need to talk funding. Discreetly. Dinner? My world tilted. Betrayal sharp as a switchblade. Was our love collateral? The projects a cover for his climb? I confronted him in the alley behind the community center. The one where we'd first mapped our dreams on a napkin stained with falafel grease. Rain poured, turning the world to watercolor smears. "Tell me it's not true," I choked, thrusting the printouts at him. He snatched them, eyes scanning, face crumpling like wet paper. "Gabe, it's not." He cornered me after a meeting, pushing for influence. I shut it down. "Swear on my abuela's grave." But the donor's name matched the chats, the dates aligned. "You're lying to protect the grant." I spat, voice breaking. "Or me? Which is it, Antonio? Am I just the fool who walked away so you could play savior?" He stepped closer, rain matting his hair, voice raw. "You walked for you, Gabe, for the man I fell for, the one who saw me. Not the projects, not the money. Me." Thunder cracked, and he grabbed my jacket, pulling me in, forehead to forehead. "I love you." Messy, broke, all of it. "But if you can't trust that." He released me, stepping back, the alley swallowing the space between us. I saw it then, the fracture we'd both widened. My family's poison in my veins, his survival scars making him guarded. We'd built something beautiful on shaky ground, and now it teetered. I turned, vanishing into the downpour, hailing a cab to God knows where. Penn Station, maybe, or back to the mansion's cold embrace. But as the cab idled, wipers slapping rhythmically, his text pierced the haze. "If leadership means leading with your heart, then lead us home. Or let me go, but don't half-ass this love." I stared at the screen, the city pulsing around me, horns blaring, umbrellas blooming like defiant flowers. America, for all its fractures, was built on reinvention. Immigrants forging empires from tenements, lovers rewriting scripts in the face of hate. I'd walked from wealth for this, for him, for the truth that privilege couldn't buy. Betrayal stung, but doubt? That was the real thief. I texted back, "Allie." Now, minutes later, he appeared, soaked and shivering, and I pulled him into the cab without a word. We didn't speak on the ride home, just held hands across the vinyl seat, fingers interlaced like lifelines. In our flat, towels and tea led to truths. The donor rebuffed, the chats a bluff to buy time. Eliza's meddling, born of her own grief over our fractured family. Forgiveness wasn't fireworks. It was Antonio's head on my shoulder, whispering plans for the center. Not as escape, but as anchor. Months blurred. The youth center opened in spring. Rainbow flags snapping in the Bed-Stuy breeze. Kids' laughter echoing off brick walls we'd painted ourselves. My father came once, uninvited, standing awkward in the doorway, Eliza at his side. "Proud of you, son," he muttered, eyes on a mural of intertwined hands. Mine and Antonio's idea. No apologies, but a check slipped into my pocket and signed. I tore it up later, but kept the gesture. Progress, American style. Antonio and I were still building, fights and all. Love isn't a straight line. It's a protest march, detours and all. He walked into my world from the shadows, and I vanished into his light. Together, we're leading not just projects, but lives. Queer, messy, unbreakable. In this vast, flawed country, that's the real wealth.